Hare Krishna, Dandavad Pranams to all. Welcome Bimal Krishna Prabhu ji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, welcome to Kanya Desh.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Another 2 minutes, Prabhuji. Just devotees are assembling.
Manibhushan Krishna Prabhu, I think we'll request Prabhuji to start with Kirtan. So then,
Yeah, okay,
sure.
okay. Go ahead, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranams Prabhu. Prabhu would like to do Kirtan. Prabhu, we'd like to hear from you. If it's okay for you to start with.
From me, or I think somebody else can do it, would be nice.
Okay. Sure, Prabhu. Mataji is there? Himawati Mataji, Anantama Gopal Prabhu, Amal Arjun Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Mataji's 5 minutes Kirtan you can have, Mataji. So.
Which?
Hare Krishna also. Okay, Mataji.
Okay, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Or we'll have Jayarada Madhav, Mataji. Jayarada Madhav.
Oh, you want Jayarada Madhav, you want to sing?
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana 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 Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद
Jai.
जय, निताई गौर
Jai.
प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल।
Hare Hare Hare.
थैंक यू प्रभु, हरे कृष्ण।
Thank you, Ramesh Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandar Pranam, Prabhu. With your kind permission, I would like to introduce to all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. First of all, thank you, Prabhu, for accepting our invitation. So, Hare Krishna devotees, we are very, very fortunate to have with us His Grace Bimal Krishna Prabhu, Prabhu from ISKCON Vrindavan. Just a brief profile about Prabhu. Prabhuji came in touch with ISKCON in mid of 1980s in UK, began association with ISKCON in 1988, qualified and worked for a brief period as an analytical chemist before joining ISKCON full-time in 1990 at Bhaktivedanta Manor, UK. Received first initiation from His Holiness Bhaktichara Swami Maharaj in January 1993 in Mayapur. Served at Bhaktivedanta Manor from 1991 to 2006 as Communications Director and as a Secretary to the Save the Manor campaign, 1991 to 96. Secretary of the National Council of Hindu Temple in UK, 1991 to 2006. Relocated to ISKCON Ujjain in September 2006. Served as a core temple president for 10 years. Relocated to ISKCON Vrindavan in October 2017. Current services at ISKCON Vrindavan include member of Vrindavan Management Council, BMC, Public Relations Officer, overseeing the maintenance and upkeeping of Srila Prabhupada Samadhi's Mandir, act one of the teachers of ISKCON Disciple Course. So we are very fortunate to have Prabhu's association today with us. So let us all welcome Prabhu by enthusiastically chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, shall I start?
Yes, Prabhu, please. Thank you.
Okay. So I'd like to thank Mataji and Prabhuji, who's staying in Vrindavan, for giving me the opportunity to say a few words and discuss this particular verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 33. Just a very brief overview, which I'm sure you all know. Just for me to form a base for this verse, I just wanted to give an extremely brief overview of what's happened so far. As we all know, Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic literatures. Sarva Upanishado Gava, Dogda Gopalanandana. And then this Bhagavad Gita was actually spoken, as we know, by Lord Krishna to Arjuna over 5,000 years ago on the battlefield. And because the war was inevitable, we know this story. There's no need to go into that. And then what would we have? Because Arjuna refused to fight the war. When Arjuna saw on the battlefield on both sides, he saw his fathers, grandfathers, his maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, and his friends and relatives. And he became very emotional and he refused to fight the inevitable war for which him and the rest of the Pandavas had prepared for the 13, 14 years. But when he saw everyone, his friends and relatives on the battlefield and refused to fight, in chapter 1 we find, towards the end of chapter 1, he gives 4 reasons to not fight this battle. And the 5th reason he gives in the beginning of chapter 2. Compassion was one of them, loss of enjoyment, this is end of chapter 1. fear of sinful reactions. Arjun was a natural, very natural devotee, a Vaishnava. Vaishnava is by heart very soft-hearted and very compassionate. And when Arjun saw that inevitable outcome, that all his relatives, friends will die, because that was the result of the war, so he became very compassionate. He did not want to fight. And second reason was loss of enjoyment. If he thought, if I kill everyone, which was inevitably the result, the conclusion, then there will be no one left for me to enjoy my gain, the kingdom, the vast kingdom. Because we enjoy our assets with our friends and relatives. But if no friends and relatives were left, who would Arjun enjoy? So he said he won't fight. And the third reason he gave was of incurring sin. Killing is sin. So he said, I don't want to take part in sinful reaction. Other reason gave, he said, if I, all these 18 Akshahonis, 11 Akshahonis were on the side of the Kauravas, 7 on the side of the Pandavas. And altogether, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, something like 350 odd million people, warriors were present. And Arjun said, if all of them are killed, because in the war, it's mainly the men was there, there's no women at that time fighting. So if all the men get killed, the family traditions will be destroyed and the families will be ruined. So he did not want to fight. And the fifth reason Arjun gives the beginning of chapter 2 is indecision. So he said, now I don't know what to do. What is whether to fight or not? Then he surrenders to Krishna in chapter 2, text 7. Shishisteham shadunam tvam parapanam. Initially, Krishna refuses to accept him. He in fact directs Arjun to go to other great personalities like Vyasadeva, who was present. But Arjun said, no, only you can alleviate my doubts. Then Lord Krishna begins his teachings. He accepts Arjun as a disciple. He begins his teachings from text 11 of this chapter to text 13. This particular section is known as the Jnana Kanda section, where knowledge is, Lord Krishna gives the basic knowledge. And Lord Krishna doesn't repeat that knowledge except with few verses in 18th chapter. And this knowledge, the knowledge of the difference between the soul and the body, is a fundamental basis, fundamentals of spiritual life. And Lord Krishna begins with that, like that. So the soul is distinct from the body. And then, once that section is over, what is happening? Lord Krishna will give many arguments, many points of discussion to Arjun, on which the aim is for Arjun to be convinced to fight. Why fight? Because he was Kshatriya, he was a warrior. And Arjun at the last moment refused to fight. He backed out. He was escaping from his duty. His prescribed duty. In fact, this verse talks about that today. And Lord Krishna gives many arguments, many statements. In fact, he takes Arjun on a journey. What is known as the yoga ladder, beginning from chapter 2 all the way to end of chapter 6. And in this yoga ladder, many different parts are discussed. Karmakand, Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga has 2 sections, Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then Jnana Yoga, then Ashtanga Yoga, which is Dhyana Yoga. And then finally, at the end of chapter 6, Bhakti Yoga. And we know, and all of these yogas are actually summarized into 3 main categories: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And all of these topics are summarized again in chapter 2. Bhagavad Gita is a summary of all the Vedic literatures. In the Vedic literatures, it is said about 1 billion verses exist. And all the Upanishads, Itihas, the Vedas, the Puranas, the Darshans, etc. But a billion verses exist. And all the billion verses are summarized into 700 verses, which is known as Bhagavad Gita. And these 700 verses are also again summarized in chapter 2, what we were discussing today, contents of the Gita summarized. But then again, all these 700 verses are summarized in 4 texts, known as the Chatur Shloki Bhagavad Gita in chapter 10. And then again summarized in known as 3 Shloki Bhagavad Gita in chapter 15. And then finally, they are summarized into 2 shlokas in 1865 and 1866. So 1855 and 1866, the 2 shlokas are the summary of all the 1 billion verses which are present with us in the Vedic literatures. But coming back to today's verse is text 33. So we'll just, how do you do it? Do you read the verse, go word by word, or what is your normal procedure?
We recite the verse, Prabhu. You will recite the verse, and if you want, we will read the translation and purport, or if you want, you can read it also, Prabhu. It's like your option.
Okay. So do you repeat after me, or I just say it myself?
Either way, it's okay, Prabhu. Whatever is convenient. Yeah. You can recite, Prabhu.
Okay. So today's verse is Atha Chait Tavam Imam Dharmayam Sangramam Na Karishyasi Tatha Svadharmam Kirtincha Hitva Papam Avapyasi. Atha Chaitvam Imam Dharmayam Sangramam Na Karishyasi Tatha Swadharmam Kirtincha Hitva Papam Avapyasi. Maybe somebody can repeat once or twice. It'll be nice. If somebody wants to.
Chetam imam dharmyam sangramam na karishyasi tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam avapsyasi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So I just do the word to word. Atha, therefore, chait, if, tvam, you, imam, this, dharmayam, as a religious duty, sangramam, fighting, na, do not, karishyasi, perform, tatha, then, swadharmam, your religious duty, kirtim, reputation, cha, also, hitva, losing, papam, sinful reactions, avapyasi, will gain. So this word-to-word translation and purport is by His Divine Grace. Abhay Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So translation: if, however, you do not perform your real religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties, and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. I just repeat that. If, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. Purport: Arjun was a famous fighter, and he attained fame by fighting many great demigods, including even Lord Shiva. After fighting and defeating Lord Shiva in the dress of a hunter, Arjuna pleased the Lord and received as a reward a weapon called Pashupatrastra. Everyone knew that he was a great warrior. Even Dronacharya gave him benedictions and awarded him a special weapon by which he could kill even his teacher. He was credited with so many military certificates from many authorities, including his adopted father Indra, the heavenly king. But if he abandoned the battle, not only would he neglect his specific duty as a Kshatriya, but he would lose all his fame and good name and thus prepare his royal road to hell. In other words, he would go to hell not by fighting, but by withdrawing from the battle. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri. Okay, so this particular section of the chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita is known as Karma Kand. As I mentioned, Yoga Ladder starts from Karma Kand. Karma Kand is you can describe it or you can compare it to a business. Like in the business, one does something to gain something. So in Karma Kand section of the Vedas, or the Karma Kand activities, which are described great details in the Vedas, one takes on something, one does a specific activity with the hope of gaining something back, whether it's enjoyment, going to the heavens, whether it's liberation, or whatever it may be. There's so many details. So Karma Kand section, after trying to convince Arjuna on the level of Gyan, that the soul is distinct from the body, even if you kill, Lord Krishna said to Arjuna, even if you kill your relatives in front of you, you're not actually killing them, because soul never dies. It just changes body. But Arjuna wasn't convinced. And so then Krishna moves on to a different argument, which is Karma Kand. And here, Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that you have to fight. Your specific duty is to fight. And if you don't fight, then you will incur sin. Now, this is opposite of what Arjuna had given reason in chapter 1, text 36, that if he fights and kills, then Arjuna thought he will become sinful. Here, Krishna is saying, no, if you don't fight, then you will become sinful. Why? Because this is his specific duty, Swadharmam. It is mentioned here, Swadharmam, Kirticha. So Swadharmam, there are different types of dharmas. There is a Swadharma, there is Varanashram dharma, there is Purush dharma, there's Istri dharma, there's Apatkalin dharma. So many dharmas there within the 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. There's Brahmachari ashram, Grasta ashram, Vanprastha, Sannyas. Each one of them have the distinct. Similarly, sorry, there was a phone. Similarly, there are in 4 varnas, the Brahmins, the Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudras, they have a distinct dharmas. But each individual within the Varanashram system have their own swadharma, own particular specific duty, which we all have. And Krishna here trying to tell Arjuna, Arjuna, you're a Kshatriya, your specific duty is of a Kshatriya, which is to fight and protect. That's what Kshatriya does, to fight and protect. And whereas Arjuna wanted to leave the battlefield and become a beggar, escape from performing his duty. That's Krishna saying, if you do not perform your religious duty, fighting. Now, religious duty, we have to understand this war which took place was actually a religious war. And now what constitutes a religious war? That is, there's a whole arguments and statements and facts for that. But this was a religious war, and that was his specific dharma, of Arjuna's dharma, and Krishna is trying to convince him that you have to fight, and if you don't do your prescribed duties, then you will incur sin. And one of the lessons we learn from this particular verse, that we all have our swadharmas. And keeping that in mind, at the end, I'm coming back to the early point, Arjuna is told towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells him very categorically. And if you read Mahabharata, we find that each character, each great personality had their own dharmas, and they were thinking dharma to be like this, or definition of dharma is, everyone had a different concept. So therefore Krishna tells Arjuna at the end, and tells all of us, he says, Sarv dharman parityaj, mam ekam sharanam vraja. So abandon all varieties of religions. So then what does one do? Have the ultimate dharma. ultimate dharma is Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Krishna is telling him, just surrender to me. That is the ultimate. But coming to that ultimate dharma, or what is known as Bhagavatiya dharma, Bhagavatiya marg, one should come via the Varanashram system. That's a general rule. But those who are treading on the path of devotional service, they do not necessarily have to come through the path of Varanashram system. But however, the lessons we learn from here that we, in this life now, we still have our swadharmas. And that swadharmas we should try and follow and progress on our swadharmas. At the same time, especially for grihasthas, those swadharma is paramount. At the same time, treading on the path of devotional service. And that's what Krishna is telling Arjuna, that everyone must perform their prescribed duties. If one doesn't perform their prescribed duties, then that has a negative reaction. In this case, now one can say, Arjuna has been very kind, very thoughtful. He doesn't want to kill anyone. And so therefore he's refusing to fight. But Krishna is deliberately poking into fight and kill. So one can say Bhagavad Gita is a book of violence. Why is Krishna really trying to convince Arjuna to kill millions of people? But the main point is that is a prescribed duty, and that is a religious war. And that's what that situation demanded, and that's what Krishna also wanted. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God, had wanted. That's why it became a religious war. Now, if we compare that to today's or in the recent past, the history of the world, especially the religions, various religions, they say they're fighting. It's a religious war. And under the heading and under the understanding of their religious war, they carry out atrocities around the world. So the question comes, is that religious war or not? So there's a point of discussion, and we can have that bit later on if we have time. So yeah, and then other point Lord Krishna is making to Arjuna, he's saying, if he doesn't fight, if he doesn't perform his prescribed duty, then he will lose his reputation. Kirtim. Reputation for all of us is very important. In fact, reputation is so important that big corporates, they spend millions to build up a reputation or spend millions to defend their reputation. And if somebody defames on an individual level, if somebody defames somebody else, we take them to court because of reputation. And reputation is, and Lord Krishna, next verse 34, he points out, Akirtim cha bhutani kathayashyanti tevavayam sambhavitasya cha kirti maranad atirichyate. He says, Krishna says, for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than the death. So any cultured person, any respectful person, for them, honor is everything, reputation is everything. And Lord Krishna is pointing this out to Arjuna. If you lose a reputation, people will make fun of you, they will poke you, and they will say, what a great personality Arjuna was, because Arjuna was a famous fighter, as Prabhupada points out in the verse, in this purport. Arjuna was so famous, in fact, he was the greatest warrior of his time. He was the greatest archer. And he had fought with, and he had competed with, and even defeated some of the great devas, the demigods, including including Indradev, his father, Lord Shiva. In fact, he had pleased Dronacharya, his guru, so much. And from all of them, he had obtained great weapons. From Lord Shiva had obtained Pashupatriastra, from his father Indradev, the Vajra, the Shakti. Dronacharya gave him the Brahmastra. Then we have from Kuvera, he had Dandas, from Kuvera he had Antardhan Astra. Then from Varuna Dev he had Pashvastra, Arjun obtained. And from the Supreme Yamaraj, yes, from Yamaraj he obtained Dandastra. So many personalities, great demigods, he had obtained, Arjun obtained many weapons, divine weapons, and he was such a great fighter. And Krishna is pointing out that if you run away, if you act as a coward and run away and not fight, then you will lose your reputation. And he became so famous after he pleased Lord Shiva. Once, when the Pandavas were in exile, Ashwatthama, this comes in Mahabharata, Ashwatthama went to Dwarka and asked Lord Krishna for his Sudarshan Chakra. And Lord Krishna was a bit surprised, as no one has ever asked Krishna of Sudarshan Chakra. But Ashwatthama went, and Ashwatthama was told, Krishna sir told him, okay, take it. This is my Sudarshan Chakra, take it. Ashwatthama trying to lift it with the right hand, left hand, both hands. It was so heavy, he could not lift it. And then Krishna asked Ashwatthama, why did he need the Sudarshan Chakra? Ashwatthama was very straightforward, honest, and courageous. And that is the first quality in the 18th chapter, Shamadhamatavashosham Shantamarajam Evacha. The qualities, 9 qualities of Brahman is given. The foremost quality is that Brahman is honest in all circumstances. And Ashwatthama, being a Brahman's son, he was a Brahman himself, he very honestly told Krishna, I wanted Sudarshan Chakra so I can kill you. Who killed Krishna? Because he wanted to defeat Lord Krishna, who was the main obstacle for the Kauravas' victory. And Krishna was very pleased. He said, I'm pleased with the honesty and courage. So instead of Krishna, although wanted to give Ashwatthama the Sudarshan Chakra, but Ashwatthama could not receive it. In turn, Ashwatthama was given a Narayanastra. But Ashwatthama didn't think much of the Narayanastra. And then Ashwatthama built his own weapon, equivalent to Pashupati Astra. And then Krishna, when he got to know that, he went to see the Pandavas, and Lord Krishna told Arjun to go and please Lord Shiva. And Arjun left the rest of the Pandavas. He went to the high in the Himalayas. He performed his austerities. He made a Shivalinga and started worshipping with great austerity Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva became very pleased, and he wanted to bestow him the Pashupati Astra. And then, but Lord Shiva wanted to kind of test Arjun out, his strength. And Lord Shiva, we all know this story, came in the form of a hunter, and Durga Devi came in the form of huntress. And there was a Devan Mukasur in the form of a swine, a pig, came and attacked Arjun. Arjun shot the arrow from the front, the huntress from the back, and the demon was killed. There was argument between Arjun and the hunter, who was Lord Shiva, as who shot the pig first. Argument pursues. They start fighting with each other. Lord Shiva cuts Arjun's bow string. Arjun starts fighting hand to hand with Lord Shiva, but he can't defeat him. Arjun is very surprised. Who is this hunter? I'm unable to even get close to him. And then he leaves the battlefield and starts worshipping Shivlinga again, and he offers the flowers. The flowers he offers to Shivlinga, Arjun finds the same flowers, goes in the feet of the hunter. Then he realizes who that hunter is. And then Lord Shiva and Huntress, Durga Devi, reveals their veiled form to Arjun, and the Pashupati Astra is granted to Arjun. Like this, Prabhupada says he also, even Dronacharya gave him great benedictions. And there's many stories of Arjun pleasing Dronacharya in Mahabharata. Maybe just touch one or two of them. The point where Dronacharya gave Arjun the Brahmastra. Once in the Gurugram, in the ashram, Dronacharya wanted to test the Pandavas and Kauravas' abilities and skills. So Dronacharya, with his yoga Shakti, created a crocodile illusion crocodile, which was trying to eat Dronacharya. And everyone was so scared and they didn't know what to do, all the students in the ashram. Only Arjuna, with his quick reflexes and senses, immediately shot. He wasn't scared, he wasn't affected. Immediately he shot with his arrows and killed the crocodile. And Dronacharya was very, very pleased with Arjuna's responsibility and his reactions, and he was bestowed Brahmastra. And like that, many other incidents there, like the shooting of the arrow on the eye of the fish. That's another incident. And also when Drupad was captured by Arjun, Drupad was Dronacharya's friend earlier on. So Dronacharya was very pleased. Like this, Dronacharya gave him many weapons and mantras. But fortunately or unfortunately, whichever look at it, but fortunately, Arjun never had to use the Brahmastra or even Pashupati Astra in the battlefield. Like this, Arjun was called to the heavenly planets by Indra, and Arjun went and pleased Indradev, and Indradev gave him the Shakti weapon, his Vajra Astra, to be used in the battlefield. But again, Arjun did never use that because these weapons are so powerful, and unless they're used against powerful enemies, they will cause the destruction of the world. Out of all the weapons, Brahmastra, you have Pashupati Astra and then Narayan Astra. Narayan Astra is the most powerful. But the most powerful weapon of all time is the Sudarshan Chakra. No one can defeat or get away from the effect of Sudarshan Chakra. And we know that. We read in Bhagavatam when Sudarshan Chakra followed and chased Durvasa Muni, the powerful sage. Even Durvasa Muni himself could not save himself from the effect of the Sudarshan Chakra. So here Krishna is pointing out, you're such a famous personality that you will lose your reputation, Arjuna, if you don't fight, if you don't perform your prescribed duty, as we just learned and Prabhupada points it out. And if you don't fight, you will incur sin. And if you don't perform your prescribed duty, and if you abandon the battlefield and neglect your specific duty, you will lose all its fame and good name. And here is what Prabhupada says, and thus prepare your royal road to hell. So, and Prabhupada finishes his purport. In other words, he would go to hell, not by fighting, but withdrawing from the battle. And again, just come back to the point that everyone has a specific duties we must perform. And at the same time, we are in Krishna consciousness. We have to, the ultimate dharma is surrender to Lord Krishna. I take up the path of devotional service. But within the devotional service path, unless one totally joins ISKCON in the temple full time and renounces the world, that is a separate thing. But for those who are Grihasthas, living in the world, within the ultimate dharma, there is swadharma, our own particular duties. And for example, looking after families, looking after our congregation, those who are dependent on us, our work, our business, these all they all count as swadharmas. So in the past, everyone's own specific duty was very clear. But in the age of Kali, specifically in the last 100, 200 years, especially in the last 60, 70, maybe 80 years, everyone's duty, specific duty, is changed. We're not sure what our specific duties are. So therefore, whatever we're doing, whatever situation we are in, we should consider that and take that as our swadharma, but as a stepping stone to our ultimate dharma, which is surrendering everything to Lord Krishna. And treading on the path of devotional service. The whole of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks for Arjuna to accept this fact that he should perform his duty. From this chapter till the 18th chapter, only when the almost 700 verses are spoken, Arjuna asks any questions in between. Then Krishna convinces Arjuna, and Arjuna is convinced. Then he says, Varishe Vachanam Tav. I will do whatever you tell me. Arjuna is convinced. And in between, many paths are described which relate to all the people in this world differently, depending on whatever path they've chosen, whether it's Karma Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, Kriya Yoga, or Sakam Karma Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga. So there's something for everyone in Bhagavad Gita, especially in the first 6 chapters. For 7 chapter onwards, specifically 7 to 12, is pure devotional service. And 18 chapter, last 6 chapters, 13 to 18, also, although there's a lot of gyan in there, but it's full of bhakti yoga as well. The whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to realize for us, Arjuna is a medium for us to ultimately surrender to Krishna by performing our specific duty, our swadharma. Otherwise, we will be incurring sin. And if we incur sin, if anyone incurs sin, that actually binds oneself to the world we live in. Under the 3 modes of material nature, and according to our activities, each living entity encounters good or bad situations, bad karma, the reactions to bad karma or reactions of good karma. And bad karmic reactions inevitably involve sin. And we all want to become sinless. Unless one becomes sinless, it is very difficult to achieve the path or achieve the goal even of devotional service. Because one of the 10 offenses in chanting the name of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. The offense number 7. Yes. So therefore we must, although we are on the path of devotional service, we must be careful that we don't become sinful, because the reactions of sin on the path of devotional service is much greater than if one is not on the path of devotional service. So the responsibility is even more, that great understanding is even more while treading on the path of devotional service. And that's, Arjuna was a devotee. He was the greatest devotee. Krishna is the intimate friend. But Krishna is telling Arjuna through him to us that what we need to do, how we need to do it, when we need to do, and what our consciousness should be, what our mood should be, what our mentality should be while performing devotional service. If we don't do that, then inevitably, even on the path of devotional service, even though we may think, I'm not incurring sin, unfortunately, that may not be true. We may incur sin also. So here, just to end, I think it's in 45 minutes. We'll leave a few minutes for some comments and questions, answers. So Krishna says, if, however, you do not perform your religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation. So I think I'll stop here, if that's okay with everyone. If somebody wants to have some corrections, comments, or questions, we can have that.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. You have covered Bhagavad Gita as well as Mahabharata also. Thank you very much. Any question, Krishna Prabhu?
Hare Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Hare.
Such a wonderful explanation on this text. It's very inspiring class on behalf of all the assembled devotees. I wish to thank you. Any questions or any comments from any devotees, please come forward.
Yes, I have enabled the unmute option. So you can unmute and you can ask the questions.
How long do you normally have this session? An hour or?
1 hour, Prabhu.
1 hour.
Yeah.
I thought
Yes,
so.
Prabhu.
I thought so.
Yes. Prabhu, I just have a small question. You explained it, but still for a little more clarity. When we say our duty, so Arjuna knows he's a Kshatriya. Of course, there is 2 duties we do. One is on the spiritual platform towards the Lord, and also on the bodily platform. But here, Arjuna knows he's a Kshatriya, so he has to fight. So our current system, we do not have any kind of classification like that. So how do we know that we are performing our duty on the bodily platform? Because of course, the spiritual platform, we will be executing the devotional service. But is there anything like specific that on the bodily platform, how to identify or something? Is it a normal family duties only or?
Yeah. See, whatever we do, they will inevitably fall under the 4 varnas or 4 ashrams, one of them.
Yes.
A similar question was put to Prabhupada. One of his disciples asked him, so who are we? Which classification do we fall under? Are we Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, etc.? Or Shudras or Brahmins, etc.? Prabhupada said, it's so topsy-turvy in this current age, the 3 modes of material nature. And our work associated with them is so topsy-turvy. We don't stay in one platform. We're always fluctuating from one to another. Now, especially if one comes, let's look at a bit more detail. Most of the people in this world are either Vaishyas or Shudras. If you look at from that particular point of view, I'm looking from non-devotional point of view. Most people are Vaishyas or Shudras and very few are Kshatriyas and even fewer are Brahmanas. First of all, very simply put, Brahmanas they're always independent. They're not dependent on anyone. They're only dependent on the Supreme Lord. The Kshatriyas, they never work for everyone. They rule. They don't work under anyone. The Vaishyas, they don't rely on others either because they have their own businesses. It's only the Shudras they rely on somebody. So from non-devotional point of view, if you look, anyone who works for somebody, he's a Shudra. You see? So from that point of view, most people falls under Shudra. But however, when one takes up the path of devotional service, our main dharma becomes for the satisfaction of Lord Krishna. So even if we are doing whatever profession, job, or circumstances we may be from a bodily point of view, if we do that for the satisfaction of Krishna, that actually dovetails, that overrides any Varnashram classification. Antanarayan is, okay, see, the purpose of Varnashram dharma is to samsiddhi haritoshanam, to please Lord Hari. So whatever we do in that particular Varnashram, then is to please the Lord. But if one Varnashram, then it's even much better. That's the ultimate. And that's why Lord Krishna tells Arjuna in the 8th chapter, Ma manusmara yuddhacha. You fight, but remember me at the same. So whatever we are devotees, we are doing that anyway. So our understanding should be, so whatever we're doing, whether it's our devotional service or our so-called non-devotional service, the aim is our so-called non-devotional activity, we should make it devotional because we should make that as an offering to Lord Krishna. So that does not come under any of the Varanashram classification. That comes under devotional service. So it's a shifting of consciousness. Although Prabhupada said he wanted to establish the Varanashram system, he only did 50% of his work. But this Varanashram system is for general mass of people. The aim of Varanashram system is to come to the level of devotional service, which we're already doing anyway. So doesn't need to worry. So whatever situation we are in, we should just take it as devotional service because we're doing for Guru and Gauranga. So that is devotional.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Manibhushan Prabhu, your mic is mute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Any other questions? Anybody wish to comment?
Okay, looks like that's it. Thank you very much. So you have this regular classes, daily or weekly?
Every week, Prabhuji. Every week we have this Bhagavad Gita class.
Wonderful.
Hello.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for accepting our invitation, giving your time for us. So future also we will approach you to have your association.
Anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Best of luck.
Thank you, Prabhu. We would like to express our gratitude for your class and giving your time by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra 3 times. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Thank you very much.
दुबे एवचा पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय।
बिमल कृष्ण प्रभु की,
बिमल कृष्ण दास प्रभु जी की जय,
श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय।
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंड प्रणाम।
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, all devotees. Thank you very much for all your association in the morning. Just I wish to introduce our Bhadra Purnima special Bhagavatam distribution scheme. Everybody knows this September 20th will be the Bhadra Purnima this year.
Date, Prabhu, date?
September 20, Prabhu.
20, okay.
So every year we used to do this Bhadra Purnima special campaign. This year also we are planning all over the world. So everybody is requested to participate in this one. Those who are don't have Srimad Bhagavatam, you can purchase Bhagavatam this time. Or if you want to donate to somebody, you can use this opportunity. And also you can introduce this one to your friends and relatives, those who are interested. So we planning to have minimum 50 sets during this Bhadra Purnima. We have time from this September 20 to December 31st. So please participate in this one. And this is a special prize also announced during this Bhadra Purnima. So we will share this price list by today in our groups. So you can use this special prize and you can distribute as much as possible. And you can contact Udara Chandra Krishna Prabhu or Asimanda Krishna Nam Prabhu or Shivagana Krishna Prabhu for this auspicious Bhadra Purnima campaign.
Prabhu, any flyers available?
Yes, but flyer and presentation is there. I am trying to open that presentation, but unfortunately some delay is there.
Okay.
Not getting...
No, you can post the flyer in that group.
Yeah, we will do that, Proji. So it is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 12th canto, 13th chapter, 13th verse. The full moon day of the month of Bhadra, one places Srimad Bhagavatam on a golden throne and gives it as a gift. He will attain the supreme transcendental destination. And also, it is mentioned by Sanatana Goswami in Krishna Leela Stava. O Holy Bhagavata, you are my only company, my only friend, and my guru. You are my greatest treasure and my personal survivor. You are the emblem of my highest fortune and the very form of ecstasy. I offer my obeisances unto you. And this year, all over the world, it is taken the vow of distributing 25,000 Srimad Bhagavatam sets all over the world. So we are also part of that. At least we have to do 51 sets. And it is available in all the languages, most of the languages. It is 12 cantos, everybody knows. And it is published in 18 volumes in different languages. And also it is available in a small set of English in 44 volumes. Those who are interested in the small set, that is also available, 44 volumes. And on the 20th of September, there will be a yajna on behalf of this Bhadra Purnima festival. So we will be share September 20th, it will be evening, live will be available. Conducted on behalf of all the Bhadra campaign participants, brings auspiciousness to the world and glories Srimad Bhagavatam, the repentant fruit of the Vedas, which answers life's most important and pressing questions. So it will be available in Facebook and YouTube. Everybody can participate on that. The special rates for this year, this Hindi and English, Hindi and Telugu will be 25 KD for all full set. Marathi, Bengali, Kannada, Gujarati will be 27 KD. Oriya and Tamil, it will be 29 KD. English and Malayalam will be 33 KD. And English small books, that is 44 volume set, will be 30 KD. So please join this auspicious campaign. Don't miss the opportunity. I wish to request all the assembled devotees to be part of this. You can all, at least one set you can all offer on this auspicious occasion. Hare Krishna. And we'll have Radhashtami this week. So we'll be having special programs. We'll announce that programs also in coming days. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So YouTube you can disconnect.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. So evening Chaitanya Charitamrita class is there?
No, Babaji, not.
Okay.
Because now people are not interested. Unnecessarily we are inviting devotees and only me and Prabhuji will be there in the